Hello. Just trying to readjust here. Sorry, didn't mean to give everybody a ride. When I did the live video the other day, the resulting replay, I probably should have edited out the beginning of it because I had this weird look on my face the whole time, and I'm like, yeah, that's not attractive. So maybe I'll do that this time. So I am going to invite Michele to join. Everybody a couple minutes to get to find the live and join us, but here she comes. Oh, you're sideways, Michele.
Uh-oh, hold on. I was hoping that wouldn't happen because my camera won't let me set up the other way. There, I can do that.
Oh, you are.
I had a feeling if my tripod won't let me hold it the other way. It's not big enough to go.
Oh, God.
So it'll be fun. If I'm a little shaky, I'll try not to be. I'm trying to hold it straight.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you this evening?
Doing well, doing really well.
Good.
Yeah, I'm excited, nervous. I was a little nervous about
Yeah.
the technology of it. I've never done this before, so I was hoping everything would work out okay.
Yeah, the other day, I have done lives before. I have accidentally gone live occasionally too.
That's a fear of mine.
I thought I was just doing like a story one time, and it turned out I was live. I'm like, okay, I guess we'll go with this. But the other day was my first live with someone, and I guess I feel like, oh boy, I'm a little close to the camera here. But anyway, I think we'll go ahead and get started, and then we'll post the replay later for anybody that misses anything.
Okay.
So I am Suzanne I am the owner of Strawberry Moon Magazine, and we are on day 3, I think, of this self-care adventure. Like I said before, I didn't want to call it a challenge because challenge wasn't what I was going for with this. Because challenge implies like you have to do, and that's not what I wanted. I just wanted to be able to share some of the people who were authors for issue 5, which was all about self-care. I just thought it would be kind of fun to try a different way of promoting the magazine and some of my authors, and so here we are. And so I am joined by Michele, who is who's one of my authors, and her article was, oh my gosh, art journaling for conscious living. Did I say it right?
Yes.
I had to look at it today, and I was horribly mortified to discover that it is misspelled in the magazine.
And you know what? I saw your email before, and you can't feel bad because I wrote it. So I also spelled it.
Well, it's correct in the table of contents, and I'm not sure. My mom and my sister are my proofreaders, and so I have given them a pretty stern talking to as well. So
it's so funny too because it's like of all the words for me to spell wrong, like conscious, like maybe I wasn't when I was typing. I don't know. but it's okay. I think everyone knows what we meant.
Yes. And it just goes to show that nobody's perfect. And every time I bring up that I found a mistake, everyone's like, oh, it's okay, it's no big deal, don't worry about it. I'm like, oh, I'm not worried about it, I'm not upset about it. I know that there's going to be errors because I'm human, and that there's no way that I could have gotten it perfect. I think it's funny to find what slipped past, and I also think it's funny who finds the errors, because my husband is the one that pointed out the spine. Can you see that? So it's issue 5, but it's not focusing.
No.
I did not. So I just copied and I copied the file and then edited it.
Right.
This is issue 4 on it. So that's left over from the previous issue. Um, and my husband's the one that's like, did you look at the spine? I'm like, yeah. No, apparently not.
But you know what? I do it all the time. I've accepted that I will have a typo. I will have a typo. I will overlook something. That's just, yeah, that's kind of how I do things.
Yeah. And
My self-care is letting that go.
Well, yes, exactly. And that's what I was going to say, is that part of my self-care is accepting that I'm not perfect and that I will never be perfect.
None of
And
us are.
so, I try not to let perfect be the enemy of good. Somebody had asked me, how do you know that the magazine is done? And I'm like, well, I have to just call it quits at some point because I know I'll never get everything.
No.
And so at some point it's just like, I'm sick of this. I've done the best job I can. It's time to move on. So
I would imagine, like with most things creative too, when you're doing them, when I find that I'm overdoing it, like if I'm going back too much and I'm keep finding tweaks, like things that, oh, well, maybe I should redo that. Because for me, it's a fine line between finishing something and procrastinating it. So I can, because I can sit there, I've been working on different projects and I'm like, oh, they're not done. And I started these at the end of last year, and they're not projects that should take that long. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just procrastinating now because I know the next step is something I don't feel like doing, or the next step is something that's going to be hard. So yeah, I have to kind of at some point say, all right, it like you said, good is better than not done, right? You have to get something done. So yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Kay. We enjoy the spirit of the magazine, not the spelling. Yes.
Yes. And I didn't notice it either. So just so you know, I read, I saw the article, I showed it to people. Nobody's picked it up. So we're good.
So what I had done was I had gone back to the original file and I'd copied it to paste it into the file into the post for the website. And when I did that, spell check caught it. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
Oh, spell check. Yeah. No, I didn't catch it on my end. Who knows? So,
anyway, so we were here to talk some more about self-care. And Michele, you are welcome. If you want to tell a little bit about your creative journey, and maybe how self-care and art journaling fit into that.
Sure.
We would love to hear whatever you want to talk about.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I started art journaling 10 years ago, something like that. And I've just always been creative. So I'm always doing something, and it's kind of necessary for who I am. And I love mixed media. I love making books. When I first found out, like, wait a minute, I can make a book out of cardboard, I was kind of like, what? I had to do it. Yeah, because I love books, and for me, having that as an outlet, making the journals are just as much for me as working in them, and I love using them, and so yeah, it's been this journey of kind of finding my own voice in expression through journaling. I've always been a journaler. Like I love to write out my thoughts and do that. Combining the two together has been really healing for me. I like to, because the idea, and I've really embraced, I'd say over the last maybe year or so, this idea of not worrying about the pages looking a certain way, and not trying to sit down in my art journal and make art, that I'm going to be sharing. And I took a break from Instagram for a while, and I think that helped me because I didn't have to make a page thinking I'm going to share it. Now I'm at a point where I make pages. I still try not to think about sharing them, but I don't mind sharing, even like the ones that I included for the article I didn't want them to look like these amazing art pieces, because what I was trying to encourage people to do is use it for you. Let it be your space. We all start somewhere, and I wanted people to feel like you can sit down and have a ripped page and make art on it. You can mess up on your page and make art. And it's about, for me, the process of, I mean, eventually, yes, you make pages and you're like, wow, I love this page, and that's wonderful. But the self-care aspect for me was that there are days where life's messy. There are days where life does not go according to plan. So I like to sit down, and I love idea that I can use my journal as a place to kind of hold me where I'm at. And I don't have to try to, I can show up as I am and just kind of let it flow out and let the energy out. And that's my journey. And so lately, my kind of goal has been to encourage people to express themselves creatively, but to really use it as a way to kind of calm the outside voices and connect to your own voice. And it's so easy to get caught up in techniques and how to do things and making things look a certain way. And that's great. That's a lot of fun. I love doing it. I do it myself all the time. But I also like at the core, knowing that I have this place I can go to, that I can show up as I am, that I can celebrate in, that I can play in. But also I don't feel like I have to make anything to share with anyone. It can just be my place to play. So that's really where I'm at now.
That's awesome. You are totally speaking like my language and the language of the magazine, really, because one of my goals with it was not to have all of the perfect, beautiful, Michelle, you're like spinning. Are you still there? There you are.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little breaking up.
I'm sorry. Hopefully my Wi-Fi, it's raining here, so I don't know if that's messing with things. So hopefully, am I still there?
Well, kind of, sort of. Not as good as you were to begin with.
Let me see.
Technology. Not really.
I know. Is it any better? Let me see. Maybe I'll leave and come back in. Should I try that?
We can sure try that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me try that. I'll come right back in. Okay.
Okay. We'll give her just a second to try to rejoin us. That was really weird because she was fine that whole time, and then all of a sudden she started spinning. Part of what I was starting to say was that one of my goals with the magazine is that it's not all the beautiful finished spreads that, took a lot of time. And I wanted people to see and understand that they're meant to be used and they're meant to be lived in. And so I'm so glad that we've gotten submissions like that and continue to, that it's, it's meant for everybody. Here, we'll get Michelle back with us here, hopefully. Hopefully she joins us. There you are again.
Am I any better?
That's better, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's still a little like grainy, like, kind of in and out. That's weird that you were fine for that whole time, and then all of a sudden,
I don't know what's going on.
Somebody in your house doing something silly with the Wi-Fi?
No, I'm actually in the studio, so I don't know if maybe it's something here. Come over here, maybe it's better.
Okay.
I wonder, is it any better over here? Maybe I'm getting better reception here. I don't know.
A little bit, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of following up on that idea of the magazine being for everybody, for not just people who are really good at drawing. It's people for, that hate to draw. It's for, and not that drawing. I come back to drawing because I had that thing for a long time that people have, is that you have to be able to draw well to be an artist. And so that I know is something that holds a lot of people back. And like, that has nothing to do with being an artist.
No, and I think for me,
it might be something.
Yeah, there's a difference between like fine art. If you want to make art that looks exactly like something, there's that, and it has place. But there's so much room for all of it, and not just making things to look a certain way. It's expression. That's what art is.
Right. It's I've heard people talk about like big A art versus little a art, and we're more about the little a, and just and using your supplies. And I've got a Stabilo all pencil that's down to a stub that's like this, and it makes me so happy.
That's my goal. I love the Stabilos, and I haven't gotten them small yet. I got to keep, because I think it's because I have a bunch, so I tend to grab different ones as I'm going. But I'm like, I want to get down to where you have just that little bit of Stabilo. That's like my goal, is to like use up my eyes.
Yeah, I have a jar of matte medium that's almost empty, like I'm scraping the bottom. I'm like, yay!
Well, that's it. And I think it's so easy to get, and I think that's why I like making journals, because
Yeah.
when I make my journal, especially when you make them out of junk mail, I know Janessa was talking about, the glory of what you can find
Yeah. With junk
your junk
mail.
mail. And I think that helps take that pressure off, because you're like, when I make something that's the journal that's going to hold my art, it feels like me.
Mm-hmm.
I've made this journal, so the journal's imperfect and the spine might be crooked and the pages inside might be a little off. And I feel like, well, that's okay, because it's my space,
Mm-hmm.
it's my space to create in. And then sometimes you surprise yourself with what comes out, and you do make amazing art. But I feel like my focus is the practice of art, making it.
Yes.
And that's why when I talked about using it for conscious living, I feel like the choice to make art, and I really believe in, and I'm not perfect with it at all, I believe in at least trying to do it daily, where you really try to, if it's just out on your desk and you make a scribble or you pick up a pencil. I found so often how my mood can change when I just take 2 minutes. And it sounds cliche, it sounds easy, but it really does. If I have my journal sitting out, especially if it's one I'm really enjoying working in,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a few of my favorite materials, whatever that is, it could be watercolor, pencil, whatever you like to use, just sitting out in your favorite colors. And when you walk by it, you can make a little mark and then keep going. And then you walk by. It doesn't have to be, because I tend to be a bit of a perfectionist, where it's like, well, if I'm going to make art, it has to be a thing, and we have to sit down and have an art experience.
I have
and then it's like,
to have X amount of time, and
and then it never happens.
Yeah.
So if I can have it sitting out and, go over, stir dinner, and then I can come over and make a mark and then go back, or,
Mm-hmm.
in between whatever you're doing in the course of a day, that I think it's so powerful. And for me, I've found that if I just do it, and sometimes sitting in myself to sit down is the hardest part, but if I do it, it's like, wow, I'm feeling so much better than I did when I started. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not magic. It's just this idea that I think it's because I made time for something I care about. And those tend to be the first things we get rid of
Oh,
when we're busy, when we're
absolutely.
stressed.
Yep.
We get rid of the stuff that's just for us, right? Like we
Right.
tend to, everyone
Well, and
else gets it. Yeah.
I also find that sometimes I treat it as like a reward. Like, well, if you do your bookkeeping, then you can art journal. Well, then I am a procrastinator. And so suddenly I don't do any of it,
Yep.
And
Oh yeah.
but if I
I
would just take the 2 minutes, I would feel better.
Yeah. And I think it's so important, because I think that when we make that time for the stuff that is important to us, when we make the time for the stuff that we care about, it really does. That's where the conscious living comes in, I think, because then you start to do it in other areas of your life. So, you start making time for your art journaling or your art practice. And the next thing you know, you're starting to say yes to more things that restore you. And I feel like it's almost like a trickle effect of self-care that comes out of it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also a cliche, but it's that if you aren't taking care of yourself, it's harder to take care of everybody else too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I have 3 children, and we homeschool, so we're all together
Oh,
all
you're all
day.
okay.
Yeah. And I need it. And it's great because they'll sit down too, and sometimes, we make art together, and
Oh, fun.
they're learning this practice and stuff. But I found that when I don't have my time for my art, if I don't make time for it because I'm doing other things, which sometimes you have to, but
Yeah.
if I do that for too often, all of a sudden I'm like, why am I not feeling good? Like I'm
Yeah.
not feeling
I don't feel like
myself.
myself.
I'm cranky, I'm short-tempered, or there's different things like that.
Yeah.
And I had last week, I hadn't had much time for my art at all. And I was talking to my husband, I was like, I don't know why I'm feeling really cranky and just and he says, we haven't really been to the studio for about a week. And I was like, oh, that'll do it. And it was the first, because I've been making time for it for so long, I didn't realize what was causing me to feel so cranky all of a sudden. And it was like, it was nice to realize. I'm like, well, good. Then we know that this is important. You know, it's just to remind me that.
Yeah, there's your
really,
proof that you need it.
See,
Yes. Yes.
and not that you have to. Yeah, you don't have to go to a studio or anything. It's not that. But if you, just like I said, if I made the time, if I couldn't get to the studio, I should have made 5 minutes just to sit down and, you know,
Sure.
and make art. So it would have made a
So
difference.
is your studio separate? Your studio is like a separate building?
Yeah. It's not far, but yeah, it's a totally separate place. So I can go and kind of be on my own and work on it. I decided last year that I'm really, you know, working on, you know, building my career in art and building this practice. And yeah, so it was a decision that we made. And what was great though was it was a decision made out of a desire for self-care. So it was more of like, I needed a space that I could go to that was mine, because at home I was still in the family's, you know, whatever was going on.
Sure.
So I kind of always ended up getting interrupted, or I'd go out and get involved and stuff. So we had talked about it, and I was really fortunate to find a space that was very reasonable. It's like it's a little space that I have. It's not huge, it's very tiny, but it's perfect for what I need. And it was the idea, and what was key was when my husband and I talked about it and we made the decision for me to do it, was we're doing this because it's something I needed. Yes, I wanted to build my business. That was something I'm working towards, but I didn't want that pressure that because I wanted it to be a place that I was coming to, and it was a shift, because in the beginning I was like, you know what, it's okay if you just come and you sit there and move things around and redecorate.
Yeah.
Like I had to give myself this permission. And I think even if you have, because I had for years and years just a little corner of our bedroom where I had a desk. And even if it's just, I think giving yourself permission just to be in your space and not putting pressure on, like, okay, well, I need to have a practice every day. Start where you're at and just let yourself evolve, because we have so much pressure in other areas of our life that I don't think we need to add it when we're trying to add self-care and creative things. Like, okay, let me check off my self-care practices today.
Like,
it's like, well, if that helps, but
that's kind of defeating the purpose a little bit.
It can be, yes, but we can tend to approach it that way.
Yeah. No, I definitely find there are days when I sit at my desk and I, like you said, I pick up and I do something for a minute and I'm like, that's all I can do today. I've been a little bit blocked as far as art goes, and so I don't try to push myself to be there, because then I just start making ugly decisions that make it even worse. But
yes, I find those are times when it's good to, like, I just start doing prep pages. I'll just start taking some of my favorite colors and just smearing some on the back of like notebooks and things like that, like into the pages. It's like, okay, I don't know what. I think that's one of the things I love about collage is I find that whenever I'm stuck, just tearing, there's something about tearing paper. I don't know why. I started off my article like that. Like, there is just something about paper and just taking and scraps. I'm not using amazing paper, but just taking it and, you know, old junk mail or magazine, and I just tear it and then glue it. And there's just something about that I just find very soothing. And at the end, if it's just texture, it's texture on the page. And if nothing comes of it, that's okay too. But I feel like I'm making art, or I'm moving forward. I'm keeping my practice going. But when I'm stuck, I don't have to worry about turning it into anything, because I'm just, you know, prepping my pages or something like that.
It's about it's about the process, because that is part of your process. And you know, so you are making art. You're not necessarily finishing art, but you know, you've got to start somewhere.
I actually started a little series on my channel where I was talking about unfinished journal pages, because I thought it was important to share that, where, you know, I start pages and I'm like, I'm done for now. It's not done. I know it's not done. It might get done. It might not get done. I don't know, but that's the great part about our journals. You know, it's not a piece that I'm trying to finish for a series, you know, that is going to be going in an art gallery anytime soon. Like, it's just me playing in my journal. And sometimes the pages, it's like, I just can feel it. Like, I got nothing left for this page, and maybe I'll come. And sometimes I come back to them. Sometimes I come back with a completely different idea and change them. And sometimes I don't. But I think that's one of the things I love about the art journaling practice, is just the more you dig into it, you realize all the different ways you can give yourself permission. And then, at least for me, I started to think about, well, why did I need to give myself permission on this kind of stuff to begin with? Like, why am I giving myself permission to, like, it's my creativity. Like, at the very, then you start to think about, well, at least I do, other areas of my life where I've maybe not given myself permission for things that I have every right to have permission and do my way. You know?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I have several times, and Michelle, you're a little bit newer to the magazine and my newsletter, but several times I have said the rules are made up. I am the one that made the rules. I am going to change the rules. So I've had to change the schedule a couple times. You know, I thought I was going to get it done, and nope, it's not going to work out. So I made the rules. And like you said, why am I making rules? I mean, sometimes I think there's a good reason to make rules about your art. Like the journal I'm working in right now is prompt based. It's the Get Messy May. And so there's daily prompts. And I decided to give myself some additional guidelines where each spread has to include a hand-drawn face, a quote, and I have to experiment. I have to try something different each time.
Oh, nice.
But then the end rule is, and if I don't want to, I won't. I'll do something completely different because it's my journal and the rules are made up.
Well, that's it. And I think one of the things I like, it's great to give yourself those parameters and then to take notice. Okay, if you're starting to fight it, you can take notice and say, all right, am I fighting this because it's challenging me in a good way, or am I fighting this because this is just not working for me? And I think that's the difference. And that's what I love about art journaling, is because it challenges you to say, okay, I decided I was going to do this, and now I just can't. Am I procrastinating? Am I just not wanting to challenge myself right now? Or is this just really not something that's working for me? And if it's not working, then you can throw it out. But it's so funny about the deadlines, because I've done the same thing, like where I've come up with this, upload schedule that I want to share different things. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't happen, I find myself stressing. And then I was kind of like, well, you created the schedule. I mean, it's great to have consistency, and you want to try. Yes. But when you're making yourself, like, when it starts to feel unhealthy, and you're like, I could just change the date that it's going to come out. No one's gonna, the world will keep spinning. Like,
and this is not rocket science or brain surgery. And and like you said, it is good to be consistent, and you want people to see you as consistent, but yet they are also human, and we're all human, and we need to give each other grace.
Well, I think, definitely. And I think because we're all creatives, I think to some extent, I don't know about everyone, but I know for me, when you share things in your newsletter, you're like, oh, this didn't happen, or meant to do that didn't happen. I love it, because sometimes as a creative person, I feel like, especially if you're around people who are maybe a little more left brain, so they're more regimented and things like that, I can sometimes feel like I'm off the deep end somewhere, and I'm like, so it's nice. I think there's that sense of camaraderie with us creative souls, where we're like, I get it, don't worry about it, it's okay, we all
get that. I mean, I try to run this as a serious business, but it's also, I mean, my staff are my cats, so you can tell that I'm not entirely serious person. I mean, I'm wearing my Marie the Aristocats necklace today, so
I love it.
So I think you were talking about finishing journal pages, and I have to share something that I got recently, part of a collage club from James Burke. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I do, yeah.
But I don't remember which collage club it was, but he gave us a sheet of stickers that say, this was supposed to be, I was supposed to journal here, but I didn't. So here is a stick figure instead. And so the idea is you cut out that little saying, and then you draw your stick figure, and then you move on. And some of them are like, I was supposed to journal here, but I didn't. And then that's just all, you just put that sticker down. So I thought that was like a brilliant way to, you finish the page, and you're only finishing it for yourself, but then it adds that humor back in, and it lets you kind of close the book on it, have closure. And
You know what I was thinking?
I'll share a link to where you can get those stickers if you're
Please
interested.
do. Yeah, please do. It's funny when you were talking about those stickers, I was thinking to myself, did you ever see on like government forms, it says this page intentionally left blank?
Yes.
Like I'm almost thinking something like when you start a page or something, and you're like, I don't, because I've done that where I've just started like a mark and I'm like, and you just turn the page. This page intentionally left blank.
Well, yes. But today I started looking, so I had finished my spread, and I was looking at it, and I realized that I could see, so my book, I split my pages in half. So it's like you can turn the bottom and top of each page independently.
Oh, that's cool.
So I was looking, and I could see the stitching on the bottom half, but I couldn't see the stitching on the top half. And I thought, well, I don't think that's just covered up by paint. I had skipped a page. Like I had gotten, like pages had gotten stuck. So I had turned multiple pages and started making. So now my pages don't line up. And now I'm trying to decide, do I go back and finish that half page, or do I let it go? What do I do? And I mean, I'm not going to stress about it, but it was just like, oh, look at that. What did I do?
Well, it's interesting because when you think about, at least for me, I love to find the parallels because it also shows you like what I love with art, because especially mixed media, like art journaling, I feel like it's less planned than, coming up with a concept, sketching it out. You tend to be more free. And what I love about it is because so often I love watercolors, and I know some people have a love-hate relationship with them. I love them because I love the fact that I have no control over them. At least I know you can have control over words. I have no control over watercolors.
And that's why they're so awesome.
But that's what I love about it, because life's like that. And so when you see something, you're like, oh, wow, I totally missed that whole section. What do you do? Like how do you handle it? And it kind of, from approaching it as a creative exercise, kind of gives you strength. I feel like sometimes when life, at least for me, feels like, it gives me that insight to, okay, so what happens when I realize I missed a big part in life? And then I go back and I look at something and I'm like, all right, well, do I freak out? Do I try to go back and undo it? What do you know? Or do I just say, all right, well, I'm here. Yep. Let's see where it goes.
That's why I'm thinking about knitting, because I am a knitter, and I did not become a really good knitter until I learned how to fix my mistakes. I was a long arm quilter for many years, and I pieced quilts. I did not become a really good quilter until I learned how to fix my mistakes. And so it's the same thing with art making, is how do you deal with the problems that come up? That's when you really lean into becoming the best artist.
I agree. Yeah, it's interesting. And how do you approach it when you realize you made a mistake? When you realize, oh wow, totally did that whole section wrong. And I feel like creativity, and it's a safe place to try all that stuff out.
Absolutely, because yes. And I don't mean to imply you're a bad artist if you don't know, it's like, but it's just a thing, a thought process of, oh, I messed that up. What am I going to do to fix that? Yeah. A couple of years ago, I probably would have said, oh, that's it, I'm done, but now it's just like, oh, well, time to move on. So Michele, I
love the idea of this journal that you're talking about, the split pages. It's making me think of these books my kids had.
Yes, exactly.
Could, make stories.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to make one of those. I've never made one of those. I have to make one of those because I need another journal.
Of course. Of course. Michele, I hate to cut this off, but it's been 30 minutes and I was trying to keep these short. Okay. Plus my husband is in the field and needs a ride. So
of course. No.
Is there anything you'd like to wrap us up with? Or I'm so glad you were willing to hop on and join me this evening. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah. This was a dream come true to be published in your magazine for me. It was.
I'm so happy.
It was a lifelong dream of mine. I wanted, writing has been my goal since I was about 9 years old.
Yeah.
And so just to see my name in print like that was just a dream. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, that's awesome.
An opportunity to chat like this.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everybody for joining us. And I will get this. Yeah, I will get this this replay posted just as soon as I can. Hopefully yet this evening. If not, it will be up tomorrow. So we will see you all later. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Take care.
Bye.